Our first speaker is going to share his luck and knowledge with us, because do you know what luck stands for? Laboring under correct knowledge, also called wisdom, which he's equally going to share with us. We're going to hear a presentation entitled History Repeating Itself. So the key is, what can we learn from the past so we don't make the same mistakes in the future? Avoiding the silos. If we look back over the last 4 cycles of computing to the early days of the mainframe and then the mini, we have seen the IT industry continue to create silos. With the emergence of key hyperscale cloud providers, we are seeing these silos being built again and again and repeated, but on different platforms. This talk will address how do we fix that? How do we rationalize, resolve, and get rid of these silos? And we're also going to hear about something that's very exciting. Apparently it was announced on the 7th of this month, so this is hot news, and that's the VMware AWS partnership. And I'm certainly interested to learn more about that. Please have a look at this video, and that's going to introduce our next speaker, and that will be Crich, who is the EMEA Director of VMware Cloud Providers Program at VMware. Watch the video.
What is about? There's something evolving. Whatever may come, the world keeps revolving. They say the next big thing is here, that the revolution's near. But to me it seems quite clear that it's all just a little bit of history repeating.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the nice introduction, David. And water, thank you very much. There's the gin in it. First things first, I have to put this slide up just so that whatever I tell you today could all be lies, so don't worry about that. But then what I really want to talk about is the first verse of that song that we let play out there. I think it's very relevant to the way that we're working today. And it is about history. As I'm probably one of the older people in this room, I can talk about history. And this was the first verse of that song. There's something evolving, the world keeps revolving, the next big thing is here, but it's just a little bit of history repeating itself. And I want you to think about that when we look at the way that cloud is developing. And we're looking at making some of the same mistakes that we've made in the past. And I want to talk to you about what some of those were, and I want to talk to you about what VMware is going to do to help you address the new world of multi-cloud. You know, we've all been talking for years about the public cloud and the hyperscale clouds, and then we started talking about hybrid. But really what a lot of our customers are looking for is a multiple cloud approach. It's not just hybrid, it's multi as well. And so let's look at some of the things that have happened in the past, and I'm going to start a little further back, and I do see some gray hairs out there, so people who would remember the IBM mainframes. And what happened in those days was people were either on IBM mainframes or they were on mini systems, usually from HP. And there was never the crossing between the two. We built these silos of IT within organizations that were either mainframe or mini. And as that advanced, we then moved on to, and people might remember this, LAN Manager. Did you use LAN Manager to network your PCs? Or did you use Novell NetWare? Anybody remember Novell NetWare? A few. And again, you were never a mix of these, you were one or the other. And that carried on. You know, look around the room now, there'll be sort of 50% of you using PCs, and 50% of you are probably using Macs. And we get very narrow in our thinking about which one is the right one. And then closer to home, you know, which hypervisor do you use? And it's either the best one in the market, or you might use something else. Oh, that bit doesn't work. Oh, there we go, it's gone. But then let's look at service providers and where you're placing your bets today. What are you doing, and how do you avoid falling into one of these silos in the future? So this was some research we did with The Economist. If it will click. Thank you. And this is a sort of heat map of where service providers are deriving their revenue from today. And you can see it's clustered quite a lot down at the bottom left-hand side. This is where you're building, asset heavy, you have your own data centers, but it's really just hosting infrastructure. And how is this moving? How is this evolving? It's going two ways. It's going to the extremes. This is where the money is going to come from in the future. And it's going to come from service providers who've built their own data centers, but are very heavily focused on application delivery. And not just on application delivery, but mission-critical application delivery. And then the other area we see service providers moving is the asset-light model, using somebody else's infrastructure, using somebody else's cloud. And this is where this is going, so that's why I want to talk to you. And then the further research that we did of our enterprise customers, and we have, as you know, we have over 500,000 enterprise customers out there, is that 80% of them are going to be using multiple clouds in the future. Not hybrid cloud, not a single public cloud, but hybrid cloud. But multiple clouds. And so what that looks like for them, they're sat in the middle of this. They're sat in the middle of dealing with their own data centers, which you see at the bottom of the screen, dealing with our service provider partners on the left-hand side, dealing with the hyperscale clouds on the right-hand side, and then SaaS. That's what they have to contend with and manage. And at the moment, a lot of them, which is the bad news for people in this room, are going straight to the hyperscale clouds. Usually, they're only picking one of them because that's all they can manage. They're building the skills to manage one. They don't have the expertise or the money to build teams to manage multiple clouds. So how do we help you do that? So let me give you a little bit of a vision for how we see this within the VCPP, the VMware Cloud Provider Program team. We want to help our service providers to start building managed services. And today, they're building that on your own infrastructure. But what we want to do is to build a platform that enables you to leverage managed services on top of the customer's own on-premise data centers, and then to expand that to all of the hyperscale clouds. So you can build your value add on top of any of the multiple cloud platforms, and even on top of SaaS platforms. So you're providing the managed services to help them. That means that you stay relevant to your end user customers. You become that control point. You manage the relationship across multiple clouds. If you become disintermediated, which a lot of you are, then those customers are never going to come back. So how do we help you do that? How do we help you manage that? Well, if we look at the delivery of services today, we look at this and see that our service providers fall into three main areas. They're delivering standard managed hosting. This could be dedicated platforms per customer. And if they are, they tend to be using just vSphere, one of our products. They're delivering a public cloud-like service with self-service portal using vCloud Director. Or they're delivering what we call a virtual private cloud. So different commercial model, more flexibility, and using a broader range of our products to enable them to do that. That's the sort of three categories, which is great, and we're all making money from that today. But then we need to look at how we build out on top of that. So where we're going with our program, and you hear this more from VMware in the future, is we're building out what we call the Cloud Provider Platform. Now, the basis of this is the same technology that you've been using from us for a while, but expanding this into a verified design, a certified reference design that we will then validate with our badge, which you can see at the bottom is the Cloud Verified. And that takes not just the vSphere that everybody knows us for, but it includes software-defined networking, software-defined storage. And then start to build on top of that our management and automation that's going to be the basis of what we do in the future. At the side of that, we're going to deliver you application service. So we're going to give you products that enable you to go out and differentiate in the market and deliver new services. And that allows you today to connect to your customer's data center, but more importantly in the future is to reach out to those other cloud platforms. And the announcement that David alluded to on the 7th of March was the launch of the VMware Cloud on AWS coming into Europe. So the first data center that this has come into is in London, and in the next few months we'll open a new data center in Frankfurt, and there are plans to then have secondary data centers in those countries later in the year. And what this is we have built our full VMware stack. So this verified design on top of Amazon's bare metal service. So why is that important to you? Well, most of your customers want to use the advanced services that Amazon provides, that AWS provides. But a lot of them don't necessarily want to change their whole technology base. So we're now giving them the option to be able to migrate their workloads onto an Amazon platform, an AWS platform, get access to those advanced services, but continue to use the VMware technology that they know and trust, and also the technology that they're skilled up to use. The most important part of this announcement that was made on March the 7th was not just opening of the new data centers, because we've been running this service in the US for the last 6 months, but the managed service provider program. So that is the ability for you as service providers to front this service. So you become the control point. You are the point of contact for your customers, and you can also deliver your value-added services on top of that platform. This is the way you help your customers migrate onto an AWS platform, but you keep control. And we're seeing an awful lot of interest for this in the States as we've launched it, and we already have 4 or 5 beta customers working on this today. But we don't stop there. There's a whole range of other services that we're going to help you deliver. So these are mobile device management, remote desktops, and security for mobile devices. And these are all implemented into the single cloud provider platform that gives you that point of control. And at the end of the day, the way we want to move this forward is to give you the option to have a marketplace across all of these clouds, across all of these platforms. At every single point of this, you have the opportunity to build value-added services and differentiated services on top of the standard platforms that are out there. That's how you maintain control of your customers, and that's how you increase your relevance to them. So at every single point of this, there is opportunity for you to deliver value add. And as a business, as VMware, we're focusing on this core element in the middle that gives you that central control point that means you could reach out to any other cloud platform or take additional services from VMware. And if we look at the left-hand side of that, we've now delivered services that help you manage and secure applications, how you protect data, how you do backup, how you do disaster recovery, and also, more importantly, how you provide migration services. Because one of the biggest inhibitors to move into the cloud is that the customers struggle to migrate their workloads. How do you assess which are the right workloads and when you can move them? And we now have technology through HCX that allow us to take existing workloads running on-premise and migrate them straight into your data centers or onto one of these other cloud platforms. And you deliver that as a service and control it. So it's quite a complete vision when you start looking forward. And what it stops you doing is building these single silos of technology to manage one particular cloud platform, be that your own, AWS, Azure, or Google. It allows you to build a skill set that manages across all of those platforms. So, I have a couple of minutes left. Let's look at some key takeaways. Avoid going into one of those silos. My advice to you is don't align yourself to one particular platform. The research shows that customers on average are going to use somewhere between 3 to 8 different cloud platforms. So build your skill sets and avoid being siloed into just one. Embrace the whole hybrid cloud operating model. As you've seen, it's quite a complex environment. Let's make sure that you pitch yourselves to your customers that you can provide advice, consultancy, and service across all of those different platforms. And finally, choose the right tools, the right management layer to integrate across all of those multiple cloud environments. I think as you've seen from here, one of the biggest things that we want to do at VMware is to make sure that you understand we are not just a hypervisor. We are an enabler for you to deliver services. All of our focus now is providing that management and automation and the cloud tools to allow you to manage and succeed in a multi-cloud world. And for those of you that need some more useful links or want to go and look at it in more details, take a note of this slide, go and visit the links, and you can start to understand and work with us, and we can help you develop these new services. So with that, I'm a little bit under time, which I thought I may be, so.
Graham, thank you so much. Very insightful, very concise, I would also add. We have time for a couple of questions. Please, thank you. Thank you, Graham.
Which side are you going?
So I was fascinated. I love 3 takeaways because I can live with, manage, and digest 3 things. Avoid silos, multi-cloud, which means you need the skill set, go hybrid, and get the tools and management layer. So tell us, Graham, in your experience in the partner community, what are the challenges for a hoster, today's hoster, moving to an MSP?
So it's a very interesting point. What we've seen, the hosters tend to be divided into a couple of areas. There's the ones that are very much value-added at the high end of the market.
Okay.
And there's the ones that are delivering a more volume-based services. They all tend to be developed in their own, and been under their own control, and they've managed it themselves for many years. And so they tend to view the external clouds as being competitive.
True.
The issue is that, as I say, our customers are going directly to those clouds and missing them out. So the difference in moving to the MSP model, the managed service provider model, is having the skills to embrace those other clouds and helping to educate their customers that they can help them do that. You know, I've sat in a number of customer round tables where they talk about the issues that they have working in the public cloud. And these are all issues that service providers solve on a day-to-day basis. But they've not been involved in the decision to go there. They've not been involved in the design. So I think there's a huge opportunity for our service providers to add value on top of the managed clouds that are out there.
Thank you, very interesting. I love the slide you had with all the revenue opportunities highlighted across the map. That's enormous. How do you guide your partners as to where they should be focusing? Because they can't tackle all those things. How do you help them guide them to their natural sweet spots?
Now, it's a really good question because, yeah, there's revenue opportunities everywhere. I think for me, the first thing that they need to do is look at where they can generate revenue and add value quickest. And as I say, one of the areas that we've seen is particularly troubling for customers at the moment is that migration area. You know, customers need to help in understanding which applications they can move to the cloud and which ones they can't. And not just when they've identified that, how do they do it? You know, I talked to one of our service providers recently, and they said they had double the amount of business that they were doing with us, but they didn't have the migration teams and the skills to move those workloads onto their cloud platform. So that's a real
lost opportunity.
It's a massive lost opportunity.
So rethinking their approach, moving away from a proprietary mentality where they want to do it all, can they find other players in the cloud ecosystem who have those migration skills, work with those and stay with their sort of core business?
I mean, I talked about a couple of the pieces of technology. So HCX is one of the technologies we're developing to help do that. But we also integrate third-party software vendors into our ecosystem. And so we do joint development with those. And 2 or 3 of those have been purely around how do you find the migration services? How do you identify workloads and then move them to the cloud? So yeah, it's not just all VMware products. We are looking to work with third-party vendors. If they're best of breed, let's bring them into our ecosystem and help our service providers win business.
Fabulous. Now, you also mentioned the announcement on March 7th about the VMware partnership with Amazon. What else can we tell the audience here who are hosters and CSPs and MSPs that is going to be interesting to them, especially if they're on not Amazon today?
Yeah. So we've seen two responses. When we first announced the partnership with Amazon, we announced it about a year and a half ago. Okay. We started delivering in the middle of last year. Two responses from our partners. One was great. We were already trying to work with Amazon, but this is going to help us. And the other one was, we're competitive to Amazon, so we don't see this as a good thing. Now, over the last 6 months, we've seen that totally change. And all of the partners have come back to us and said, this is something we can work with. The fact that it's your technology working on top of AWS, that we're still in control because we have the managed service provider program, and we can give access to all of those advanced services that AWS provides, means we're really starting to see some traction around that. And our hope is in the future, we don't just stop there, we move on to other hyperscale clouds as well.
Ooh, I hear a rumor coming. What's next? Of those?
Possibly comment.
Fabulous. So, message, it's an evolving opportunity. Things are changing, and that means the pressure is on us to be changing at the same speed as the external market, but also the ecosystem of technology partnerships such as AWS and VMware. I think we've got time for one question from the audience. If someone would like to ask, in fact, I'll give you, the A team can be thinking of a question, and the B team can be thinking of the question, and we're going to give a prize to the best question. And the prize is going to be...
Night out with me. No.
A what?
No.
This is going to be sponsored by VMware, so let me just get a bit closer. The prize is going to be a Maserati. That's
Bluetooth
very generous.
speaker.
A Maserati, there's only one problem, it's white. And you get to drive it for 10 minutes. We had a lucky winner this morning from IBM. I've never seen a grown man so happy to be driving a white Maserati for 10 minutes, but there you are. So, who would like to be eligible to win the white Maserati? Your question to Graham is your key to the car. Don't panic now. Think of the high-wire walker. If he can do that, we can surely drive a Maserati. Yes, we have a question over here, please. Wait, the microphone's coming. Just hold your question until we get your microphone to you so then we can all hear it. And if you would say who you are and where you're from, please, when you start your question.
Hi, my name is David from Art of Automation in the Netherlands. And I was wondering, what engine does the Maserati have?
A question to Graham about VMware. I should have been more specific.
It's a 5-litre V8.
We have a question down here. Question to Graham about what he's presented.
Hi, Graham. I'm Shannon with Opus Interactive from Portland, Oregon, and I'm wondering if the management tool will extend all the way out to the edge.
The management?
The monitoring and management that you're talking about.
So we have an amount of our own monitoring and management. Depending on which of it you implement, we have several tools. Particularly if you use some of our NSX technology, you can start stretching back out onto the customer's premise. So you can actually start using that monitoring all the way down onto your customer's site and managing on-premise solutions. And we're seeing an awful lot more of our partners wanting to do that, because as I mentioned before, the migration is a major issue. If you take control of their current on-premise solution, start managing that properly, you can then extend that and migrate more easily back into your data centers.
There's a question from the person in red. I can feel the question from here. They're not sure they're ready to ask it, but I can say. The question is, at the moment we have a competition that's been won. Are you happy with that question, Graham?
I'm happy with that question.
So please see me afterwards and we'll set that up for you. So please join me in thanking a wonderful presentation. The 4 silos, don't get stuck in them. Graham, thank you so much.
David. Cheers.